All right, hello and welcome to another Expert Insight interview. My name is John Golden from Sales Pop, online sales magazine, and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Sara Connell, who is in lovely Chicago. How are you doing, Sara?
I'm so happy to be here, and it's not as lovely as San Diego. So I'm going to live vicariously through you today, John.
Excellent, excellent. And Sara is a five-time best-selling author and the founder of the Thought Leadership Academy, where she helps coaches, experts, and entrepreneurs scale impact and create 6 to 7 figures by becoming best-selling authors and in-demand TEDx speakers. You've been featured on Oprah, New York Times, Good Morning America, Today, Forbes, Entrepreneur, and TEDx. And we're going to talk today about generating 7 figures from a best-selling book. I mean, Sara, there's lots of people who often talk about like, oh, I need a book, and I think there's a book in me, and all of that, but
Yeah,
they struggle with how to put one foot in front of the other and where to start, and then there's people who sort of feel like they should do a book, or
right.
but they also then don't feel like they have anything to say, even though everybody has a story. So how, when you work with people, how do you start with that process of assessing, helping somebody, number one, discover whether they really do have a book in them, and if they do, how do they extract it?
Yes, I love this because we all know, everybody listening knows if you have a book in you or a next book in you or a bigger book, like we kind of know, but then we doubt it. And again, for all the reasons you said, oh, everyone's already written it. I'm not a
Mhm,
celebrity. It could be
mhm,
hard. What do I really have to say? And then how can it actually give me a return on investment? Because
mhm.
maybe you do know what you want your book to be, but you don't understand how it could really do what you want it to do in terms of whether that's lead generation, attracting clients, paid speaking, the things obviously we're working on sales here, John, in your world. So I want to start with part one, which is before we get to like monetizing the book, which is sort of what we're really into. The first is, if you think you have a book in you or might want to, I would eliminate any should. So if anyone's listening to this and everyone's just said you have to have a book, you don't have to have a book. It
Mhm.
is a good idea if you want to be a paid speaker or be on top podcasts, because you will get booked for those things 80% more and paid 80% more if you have a book. So that is a reality. You don't have to. There's all kinds of exceptions to every rule. All right. Then what I do, I reverse engineered 100 New York Times bestsellers because I was avoiding writing my own book.
Right.
So I spent my time productively procrastinating. And in this case, it was helpful because there were three things that all of those books, these were books I loved that had sold millions of copies. And I said, what did they all do? What was like the common denominators? Then I developed a 3-part framework that we help, our clients in Thought Leader Academy use so that you don't face a blank page and that you don't feel like it's going to take you 3 years. So I went
Right.
from taking me 3 years to write a book to 3 months. And these
Right.
are quality books, like books that have been nominated for national book awards and, been on shows and it's gotten good reviews. So it's not like you're putting out some, a garbage
Mhm.
book. Okay. So how do we do that? 3 steps. I'll give them to you, everybody, right now, because maybe those of you listening will kind of think, oh yeah, okay, now I can see how to put this thing together. So the first thing that all of those books, I named them all the 3 S's. They're each start with an S. The first S is your story. So
Mhm.
this is in every one of these books, the author told some kind of their origin story.
Right.
There's a reason that you're all doing what you're doing, that you want to sell what you sell, that you, if you want to write a book, that what it's about. And the reader needs to know that to connect, to make a relation. We don't go
Mhm.
right into method, data,
Right.
info, right? We want to have a real connection so that people feel like they can trust you. They feel like you've been where they've been or know something they want to learn. So it's your story, like Batman's parents were killed behind the movie theater in Gotham City and he grows up to fight crime, right?
Right.
We can joke about superhero stuff, but we're all superheroes. Like all of you have a reason you do what you do.
And
So
do
you're
you,
going to tell,
sorry, and Sarah, do you find that sometimes people often think, well, I don't really have much of a story until you dig into them, and then they realize that they
yes.
have a much more, because most people have a fascinating backstory.
They do, and people we don't count ours as interesting because we've
Mhm.
lived it and we're so used to it,
Right.
right? So we had a woman a number of years ago, a client of ours who helped with like college admissions, but she'd gone to Stanford, which in America is, a very prestigious university,
Mhm.
and she, all that stuff, and she'd done that whole Ivy League thing and all of it. And but she really had this really cool way that she worked with families and children to find out, like, not prestige school, but like where's really the right school for your kid. She had a wonderful thing, but she said, Sarah, I have no interesting story. I have absolutely none.
Mhm.
And so I said, okay, well, let's, again, we poke around in there, and some questions we can all ask, for everyone listening, like, you know, what is the reason you do what you do? Just starting with what, I said, it has to matter to you. I was like, you went to Stanford, you could have done a lot of stuff, I'm sure, but why are you, and it turns out, like, her deep passion of the wounds that she saw so many parents inflicting on their children in her generation, but also then she had children, as a parent. And she had this very rich, but she thought it had to be dramatic,
Right.
like Brendan Burchard, like, I was in a car accident and dead for 48 minutes, and then I woke up and decided to be a coach. You know what I mean? She felt
Yeah.
like it wasn't, we didn't have this drama arc, right? It doesn't have to be that. People just have to feel that you care, and there's a why behind it that they resonate with. And then also your credentials, right? Like, what is the cool stuff you've done in your field, right? You've been in business for 30 years, you have a degree, whatever it is. Okay. So that's the first S. That creates the rapport, and it earns the attention of someone to keep turning the page and want to hear. Then it's the situation, the second S. So it's like, okay, great. This is my story of why I care about whatever it is, but let's zoom out and look at the state of the world around this topic. So I always give the example of the book Profit First. I don't know if you know that one, John, but Mike Michalowicz writes this book about being an entrepreneur who generated multiple seven figures, but he was in debt. His marriage was suffering. He kept none of it. And then in the second S, he zooms out and he says, okay, but I'm not like a pathetic loser. Actually, most entrepreneurs
Mhm.
don't know how to be profitable. They don't know how to keep
Mhm.
any of the money they make. So he gives you the situation and the stakes. The stakes are, this is part of that second S, like, it's not going to get better on its own. You're not going to go from never having profit to suddenly you've been in business long
Right.
enough and you're going to be profitable. It's like, no, you need a new system, right?
Mhm.
The third S is the rest of your book, is your solution. So that's your unique methodology, your 7-step process, your 1, 2, 3, your pillars, and woven in with storytelling so that it's an interesting read, right? And has that social proof. So SSS, situation or story, situation, solution. Most people, if they spent an afternoon, could map out
Right.
book in an hour and then even start really getting it going. You could probably write the first part.
Yeah. No, I love the framework, and just coming back to number two, I think this, the situation, the stakes, as you said, zooming out, and I think that's something that is a challenge for a lot of people because they're so into what they're doing, or they're overwhelmed, or they're just, they're so focused on the stuff that's right in front of their face that it's difficult to zoom out. So how do you help people do that? How do you help people
Yeah.
do that and actually, be able to take that step back?
Well, we have never been at a better time because I don't use AI to write any of my content. I
Mhm.
think, AI can only take what's been done, and we want to be thought leaders, and
Sure.
be original. So I don't use it to, like, generate like my actual, content and words. However, this is the best way, I think, to use what's at hand right now, whether it's Chat GPT or Perplexity or Claude or Gemini or whatever you guys want, everyone else wants to use. You go on and say, I'm writing a book on this topic. Please bring me the most astonishing, compelling, exciting statistics, studies, facts, research, news stories on this particular problem, that I solve. And what used to be, people had to hire a research assistant or spend a month researching. Now it'll be done for you in seconds, completely
Mhm.
done with links, right? And I always say peer reviewed because I don't want it to pull up like Wikipedia.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
really not helpful. So I'll say, give me, peer reviewed, from good places. But what's so fun is then you get to go on a little treasure hunt because the AI has already done you've been your research assistant. And then you just look for something. Again, in journalism, we call it the astonishing statistic. So
Mhm.
things like, I was working with a realtor who told me and found out that people decide if they're buying a property within 9 seconds.
Right. Right.
It's like, dang.
Yeah.
So for her work, she gets to tell people, don't worry about what's up in the owner's bedroom. Like, what happens in the first 9 seconds is sealing the deal or losing the deal. So what are you doing in the foyer? Is the fireplace lit? Does it smell like something good? Whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Which is
So
which you got to say just on that one, it's so incredible given that it's the biggest purchase that
right,
99.9% of people ever make, and they make it on a gut instinct in 9
right.
seconds.
In 9 seconds. And I will tell you, we bought a new house 2 years ago. And I did know within 9 seconds that it was the house I wanted. And I made myself go look at a bunch of other ones. Of course, my husband and I did.
Mhm.
However, when I heard this, I thought back and I thought, dang it, she's right. Like
Right.
there, so everybody has, we all have in our area of expertise, our niche, there's going to be some gem, right? That's the really compelling, that's going to be your hook. It's going to be your hook to go on the media, talk about your book. It's going to be the hook to book speaking engagements. It'll be your hook to, do all the cool things that the book will help you do and help your reader want to really read the rest. Cause like, oh gosh, another
Mhm.
client of ours she'd been in the fitness industry and realized how toxic it was and wanted to kind of help people reclaim, their lives and their, sanity and love their bodies. And found a statistic that 94% of American women say they hated their bodies. Not
Right.
even just didn't like them, just hated. And
Mhm.
that was such a great rallying cry, for the importance of this book. So everybody, that's what I would say. It could not be easier. You could do this in 10 minutes. Just go find the thing. Like again, Mike Michalowicz is like, oh, I was a disaster. But then he
Mhm.
goes on and finds out, 89% of entrepreneurs make no profit, right? That's a very compelling statistic for his work.
Yeah, and there you go. And there's an audience for your book immediately, right? So you've got 98% of entrepreneurs out there never make any money. It's a great lesson for, let's face it, it's a time when today when there's more people than ever trying to want to be entrepreneurial, want to do their own thing. So, you've already identified your target audience at the same time, right?
Exactly. And then you know who to in your marketing, right? And you say, okay, AI, now build me a
Mhm.
marketing plan for find me the podcast they listen to, these entrepreneurs who are making, where are they hanging out on social media, what
Yeah.
platforms and what kind of posts. I mean, there's so much that can be done for us in this way that's expedited. That used to be a lot more labor intensive.
Yeah, and then in your and when you come to the solution, I think that's also I think that's where people might find that intimidating, saying, "Well, like I don't have a model, like I'm not a McKinsey, consultant." And you're going, "Yeah, well, if you've ever worked with people like that, you want something a lot simpler. To be honest, you want something that's simple and implementable." And I think that's the thing is like people really gravitate towards something that's well thought out, but simple. Simple doesn't always equate to easy, obviously,
Sure.
but something that's that's simple, that you can, that's easily understandable. And I think that's the part, I think, where working with obviously somebody like you is to be able to bring, get your solution down to something that is digestible by people.
It's so important. And what, that's what, those are some of my most fun, sessions with people
Mhm.
is like pulling out, because honestly, and again, if you aren't working with, a mentor or coach on this,
Mhm.
a really neat little shortcut is to ask yourself, what's the transformation you provide, the thing that you are known for or want to be known for, and then reverse engineer how you did it. Whether that was
Mhm.
with someone that you helped, even if it wasn't paid, or that you did for yourself, because it's hiding in plain sight. Everyone's framework. Now, I geek out and let's call it a cool name and
Mhm.
let's make it
Sure.
a methodology, because again, people will invest in the curation and organization of information even more than other things. They will buy a book because someone gave them a three-part framework.
Yep.
I've done that. A course, a book, everyone listening, whatever it is that you're offering, it's not, it has to be like never been done before. Nothing's never been done before. But when you
Mhm.
need your cool system, your framework, your method, people ascribe authority because you spent the time as a thought
Yep.
leader to develop something and package it and lead us through it. But again, like you said, it's the simplicity. It's so overwhelming to just think about whether it's eating right or longevity, but when someone says, here's the 5 steps to live 10 years longer,
Mhm.
I'm probably buying that book. I'm probably
Right.
going to read it. I mean, it I'll probably read it, even though I understand it's gonna be like the same that, is in like, eat well, don't put a lot of
Yeah.
toxins in your body, lower stress, be happy, have purpose. I know what's gonna be in that book, but if someone creates something cool called the longevity something
Yeah.
and add 10 years to your, so putting a benefit behind your system in your book is really important, right? It's the system, and then like what's that? So someone has a longevity system, but add 10 years to your life.
Yeah.
That's hooky. I'm gonna
Yeah,
read that.
no, absolutely. And then I guess part of the other thing that working with somebody like you that can really help is I think the expectation setting as well, because sometimes when people come think, "Oh, I'm going to write a book," you have to temper the expectations a little bit, because you say, okay, you're not going to produce a book like Stephen King that's going to sell bazillions of books, right? Okay. um, but the purpose, you have to understand what the purpose of your book is and how you're going to leverage it.
This is so important, John, like the reason we built our thought leader pathway the way that we did. So book is first, then you think about, well, how you want to speak, whether that's podcast interviews or some people want to go do keynotes or do TEDx, right? What's the speaking? Because that kind of, you become that triple threat, author, speaker, expert, right? And so
Mhm.
we look at those pieces, building your audience, but then monetizing is that fourth part of our framework, right? And it's so crucial because look, I don't even put book sales. I teach. I have some really fun new strategies. TikTok,
Mhm.
book. There's some really great ways to do. We just grew a YouTube channel from scratch, and you can actually sell lots of books off YouTube and TikTok and things. And I don't even teach book sales as a monetizing strategy until someone's done all the other ones.
Right.
Primarily, what is a high ticket something that you either already, if you have a course, you have a retreat, you have events, you're a coach, a consultant, we want a high ticket item that goes with your book and speaking, right?
Mhm.
Because otherwise it's a real bummer to do all this work and the time and the money invest in a book. And then, you sell, the average author sells, if they don't know what they're doing, like 100 copies.
Yeah, yeah, on a good
And
day,
it's,
and
and
that's on a
it's
good year.
on a good year, if you're lucky, it's like your mom and your cat read the
Yeah.
book, and then you're like really
Mm.
about right. So we don't want that for anyone. That's very upsetting. I'm not here for that. And so it's crucially important to the point our clients probably are irritated, but always looking at like what are the other monetization pieces we want
Mhm.
to put into place, because that's also how you'll transform people more. It's also about the person. Reading the book, I'll implement, like if I'm on a good day, one thing from a book I read. There's probably
Mhm.
like 90 things. I'll do one. I figured that's a win for me. If I really want to like adopt someone's system, I'm going to go take their course, or I'm going to
Yeah.
hire them as a mentor. I'm going to go to their event.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, because I have seen people in the past who've done books and have like been very disappointed and whatever. Like I've had a few books myself, but thankfully I had like proper expectations of it and knew what we were going to do with the book. But I think and people who are saying, well, then why should I do a book? It is like a turbocharged business card, isn't it? Because it's a great way of credentialing yourself. It's something tangible. If you want to do speaking, if you want to do coaching, it's something tangible you can point to. And plus, as you laid out with your process here, it's a great way of condensing and distilling your own thinking. And then that helps give you the framework to be able to do these other things.
It truly, if you don't have a course, you write the book and you'll make a course out of it.
Mm.
You make a workbook. I mean, you're going to come up with spin-off products and services in your offer suite that are really, if you have all that, then the book will help you scale it, right?
Mhm.
That's, I always look at someone, are we creating something new, or are we scaling what they have? And our clients talk all the time. People who've been in their field for decades, but doing the book made them feel like at a mastery level that
Right.
was really empowering. Like they feel like, yeah, I will go on that top show now. I will, I feel so embodied in my process because of the exercise of writing it down. And the other thing is, right now, we're in a trust recession, right? We're, depending on when everyone's listening to this. And so like people are requiring, this is what the research is showing, at this point in time that we're recording this, people are requiring having a much deeper level of who they're investing with. It's not just like what's the result of the course,
Yeah.
and it's not Simon Sinek's why you do it. Now it's who I'm doing it with. Is actually, we're in a relationship currency. A relationship and trust is the currency of this moment in time. And a book is actually one of the ways you can break through and really earn the trust of someone, because it's not just a quick Facebook post or whatever. It's like, well, I want to know this person. I want to really understand that they've thought this out, that they have something. So people are vetting with books now in a way that before it was more like the check mark, you're an expert, you're an
Right.
author, which is great. Um, it also breaks the attention span barrier. So on the flip side, the human brain, the average American adult or Western world adult has a 2.9-second attention span at the moment. That's the stats. It's insane because we're addicted to these and we're, always on them. A book cover will be processed by the brain in 1.8 seconds.
Mm.
So in 1.8, it breaks the attention span barrier of, oh, John's an expert. He teaches sales. Okay, I need to work with John. we have to keep earning another 2.9 and a 2.9 and, like have put together something quality, but it will break the attention span barrier and giving that authority. So it's for the quick hit, but then the real deal. And right now people are requiring just the instant, I trust you as an expert, but also then they want to know what's under the hood. And your book is a way to give them that.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important point because, you mentioned AI earlier. You mentioned our phones and TikTok and Instagram and everything like that. Where people, I think people are so kind of skeptical about what's real anymore. Therefore, yeah, as you said, you want to attract their attention quickly, but then you want to credential yourself. You want to have something where they can say, okay, I can see there's something behind this. This isn't just something that's very superficial that somebody threw up or AI threw up or whatever. And I do think, I think you're right. I think we're in a trust economy, and I think that's where books become even more important, because you know that if you have produced a book, and a good book, there is some meat behind it, and you've put some work into it, and there's some authenticity there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, this has been fantastic. One last thing I just wanted to ask you about is just on the publishing itself, because sometimes people get very hung up on, I need to get published by a big publisher or whatever.
Yeah.
And they think, okay, if I get published by, a well-known publisher, then they're going to put all this money and marketing behind. And they don't realize that they don't. They don't do that to 99% of the books they publish. You're pretty much left on your own. They might help you a little bit, but you kind of have to prove to them, not the other way around. And so there are various different ways of publishing, but just like holding out for that big name publisher often is not the right course for you.
Yeah. So listen, the world has changed so much in a good way around publishing. There's really quality, esteemable ways that you do
Mhm,
not have to go that route. I did for my first book. I did the agent, the query letters,
mhm.
the book proposal, got the book deal, and all the things. And I will tell you that the books that I've published in, independently, we have our own press. It's not self-publishing because we want people to have, more
Yeah,
credibility, but it is no agent, 100% goes to the author. And there are a lot of factors to consider. If you are a celebrity or a big name, the
sure.
publisher will put money behind it, right?
Yeah,
For the
yeah.
rest of us, for the rest of us, right? There is prestige. Sure, you could say Random House is doing my book or
Mhm,
whatever it is, but honestly, you have to really think about how much is that worth to you. You will give
mhm.
away all creative control of your book. 90% of all sales goes to the publisher, and 10% of your 10% goes to your agent. So depending on, you may or may not care, right? I don't have an
Mhm.
opinion. We help clients get book deals
Sure.
at major publishers, or a lot of people publish with our press or other, independent presses. And the thing is, you just have to decide what's important to you. The other thing is timing.
Yeah.
The big presses are booking 2027 books right now. So a lot of the people I work with, and most, I'm on book 7 that I just started, right?
Mhm.
I don't want to wait 5 years for the
Yeah.
book to be out. And that's by the time, if you don't already have the agent, right? You're writing it, then you're developing a book proposal, then you're shopping it, then the agents, then they work for you for a year, then they shop. I mean, you are talking years and years. If you want to get your book out, like you talked about, John, what do you want to use the book for? You were very
Mhm.
clear. If it's for lead generation,
Yep.
client attraction, I don't recommend it unless you
Mhm.
are a professor. I've worked with university professors, they have
Sure,
to for
sure.
tenure, and that's fine, of course. But otherwise, we're obsessed right now. We're opening up this new club called the Monetize Your Book Club.
Mhm.
And it's all about this pain point of, I'm going to write this thing. Either I'm thinking about writing one or have one, this book, and what is it going to be able to do for me? So we're just focusing on entrepreneurial publishing. That's kind of
Right.
my flag in the ground. I'm upset because publishing is very Jurassic. It is
Mhm.
calcified. Publishers don't want to do interesting things in marketing. It's very, very, very sort of rigid in my experience.
Mhm. Yeah.
And having coached a lot of people at all the main houses and, done my own books. So I think when we bring entrepreneurship to publishing, that's where a lot of magic's happening in this era. And look, if your book goes crazy, then Simon and Schuster might come to you and say, we
Sure.
want to do a second edition or do the UK version or do the US version. And then you say, absolutely, for that beautiful $1 million
Yeah.
check you want to give me. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And also, the relevancy and immediacy of it is critical too. Because yeah, I mean, if you sign a deal and it's a book, it's going to be in 2 years' time. Hey, who knows how relevant your content's going to be in 2 years' time? That's something else you've got to bear in mind. So listen, anyway, Sarah, this has been fantastic. Such great insights. All of Sarah's information will be below this video. But before we go, please do remind people about you and what you do.
Absolutely. So again, happy to help. If anyone has questions about what we talked about today, you can come over to @ThoughtLeaderMedia on YouTube, because we have all kinds of content. And how do I figure out my book idea? And what's that SSS thing she talked about? So you can go and come over there and join us. Leave a comment. I'm happy to DM me on Instagram @Sara Connell. Easy to find on all the socials. And so here for everybody. We do tons of free trainings on this stuff all the time. If people got excited today, then just come join us, and we'll make sure we help you make that a real thing by the end of the year.
Yeah, fantastic. I encourage you, go check it out. If you have that thing inside you where you're saying, like, I'm positive I have a book, I just don't know how to get it out, well, go check out all the links below. So thanks again, Sarah. Thank you for watching and listening. I'll see you all again very soon. Thank you.